Okay, so our last speaker is Dr. Paul Liu. He is the Executive Secretary of the 4 per Mill Initiative, Soils for Food Security and Climate, where he has served since the initiative launch of COP21 in Paris, France in 2015. Prior to that appointment, he served as the Director of Agropolis International and has served in various roles within the French Ministry of Agriculture. Paul, it's great to have you here today talking about the 4 per Mill Initiative, 7 years after its inception. So I'm sure it's late in the day for you, and we're happy that you could join us and share your learnings.
Thank you very much, Christine. I hope that you can hear me. Okay, thank you. Great, because I'm in a remote part of France in the countryside, suffering from drought at the moment and fire forest everywhere. So I hope that you can hear me anyway.
Your sound is outstanding. So
thank you. Great. And I'm very sorry also for the audience to impose at the time of the day my French accent, because I'm French. I'm sorry for that. I'm not English speaking native person. So I hope that you will forgive me and my English and my mistakes. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and I hope that it will work. Yes. Okay, so here we are. I just would like to start by saying that my presentation is quite long, a lot of slides, but I think that I will go quickly on some of the slides, and maybe you can have the opportunity to read it carefully afterwards if you have time and if you wish to do so. I just would like to stress that I was very impressed by all what I heard before and all the effort that are developed at the moment by all the people working in the US, because, you know, from Europe, most of the time US were not the good guys in that climate smart competition, I would say. And but I'm glad that people are doing things there for a long time now, and that there are more and more people acting, and even the administration now is working on it. So it's really great to hear that. So I would like to start my small presentation on the 3 types of action that we can work on in order to fight climate change, food insecurity, and increase biodiversity. One of the first things is to just start preserving all the natural habitat that are sensitive to in a way of carbon sequestration, that are rich in carbon already, or that are rich in biodiversity. That's basically what we call the biodiversity hotspot, but we would like to add the natural hotspot rich in carbon, rich soil, such as peatland and some other soil, and permafrost, for instance. The other way is which is not so easy to do, very easy to say, but not easy to practice. That's what the scientists propose to us, is the fact that if we concentrate on restoring 15% of the converted land in priority, we could avoid 60% of expected extinction of biodiversity while sequestering 300 gigatons of CO2. That means 30% of the total CO2 increase in the atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution. But unfortunately, those areas in red on this map are most of the place where the population concentrate, and where you need also to develop food production. So it's not so easy to conciliate this objective with the development of fighting food insecurity. Last but not least, the 3rd type of action is concentrating on priority areas with high soil carbon sequestration potential using agroecology, whatever you call it, we call it agroecology. And this is the change of practice in all agricultural areas. And this is very important. You can see that in the US, there are a lot of area that we can consider in that aspect. And that's what I would like to concentrate my purpose in the rest of my presentation. So I will not answer to that question, because I know that you all perfectly know why is it so important to store carbon in the soil. Well, with the triple objective of mitigate climate change, adapt to climate change, and also contribute to food security and restore degraded soils. We know perfectly what kind of practice can help in that with that objective to fulfill that objective. We can work on integrated soil fertility management, water management, cover crops, organic fertilization, biochar, agroforestry, conservation agriculture, climate smart agriculture, range land management, and so on. Though the quantity you can store in the soil will depend on, of course, the type of soil you're working with, the climate conditions, the biomass availability, the nutrients availability, the water, of course, availability. If you look at what Professor Lal, which is well known in this audience, proposed to us, is just working on the left part, on the right part, sorry, of this graph. When we develop agriculture on the land, if it's a forest, for instance, then you will start observing that a decrease in the quantity of carbon content in this soil. This is linked also, of course, to the erosion. And if we don't care of what we are doing, we can accelerate the erosion and make all the soil disappear, or by chance, you can reach a new balance, a new equilibrium. But what we propose, and that what all that I heard before propose, is the adoption of better management practice that can help increasing the quantity of carbon in the soil, going in the pink area, then in the green area, and maybe in the future with new technology, we can go in the yellow area with going over the soil saturation. What if you listen to the people in the street and to the civil society, they consider that agriculture need to go in the future in two evolution. The first one would be to use less mineral fertilizer and less phytosanitary products in the agricultural production. While in the same time, they would like to develop biodiversity in the agriculture and also soil organic carbon. Presently, with the conventional agriculture, we are in this part of the graph. And if you look at what's going on in natural forestry ecosystem, which is the most complex ecosystem on Earth, then we can get inspiration. I love what Jamie said, when she said that God give us the photosynthesis. That's exactly what it means. We need to use a nature-based solution to go from conventional agriculture to a new model. And this is what we call the agroecology. By chance, we already have most of the components of what we call agroecology, and it's now up to the farmers to decide where they want to go. But of course, they need to be aware of, they need to work on that, and they need to understand what they need to do. So if you want to understand more my graph, I just put in this presentation, I will not read it, of course, this table, which can explain what is a different characteristic of each of the agriculture that I mentioned on my graph. One of the agriculture that is the closest, I would say, to the conventional agriculture, but would give a lot of advantage, a lot of benefits to soil health. This is conservation agriculture, which consists mainly in no tillage or minimum tillage, minimum soil disturbance, a permanent soil cover with organic matter or cover crops, and of course, a variability, species diversification towards the rotation in the crops species. So that's a very easy, according to us, model to follow. Of course, we need to adapt to each condition. We would like to stress the fact that the farmers are the ones who are the main actors in that field, and they are under the influence of all the other stakeholders in the society. It could be scientists, it could be government, of course, and policymaker, it could be agro-food business, the market, the consumer through the civil society. And they are entitled to or provide some food or services, but also to receive some incentive to get access to the carbon market. And I heard a lot of things around that today, and I'm very glad that I think we are all in the same track in this perception. They are in the center of the game, and they are the one who do the job. The good news is that when you ask to the farmers what option they have to improve the management of soil organic carbon, they mention crops, they mention livestock, they mention agroforestry, and it means that they know what they could do to improve those. When you ask to the same panel of farmers, what are for them the system that could help us to increase the adoption of soil carbon sequestration practices, then they answer with two kinds of answer. The first one is they need more information and advice. And on the other side, they need more support to do so and to go to the transition period of time. So we propose to look at all those scale, all the steps for scaling up all those practices, and it goes through the sensibilization of the farmers, the development or the collection of good practices, the knowledge transfer, the accompanying the transition, the framing, how we can develop voluntary or community or contractual system, the MRV system, how we can follow that. It was really very well stressed by all the people working, speaking before me, how we can finance that and how we can take care of that at the level of the carbon accounting system. And of course, we need to have an inclusive system governance, giving the voice to all the actors, all the stakeholders. So now you know a little bit where we are and what we propose. Just a few words about the 4 per mil initiative. Well, this initiative was born, as it was said by Christine, at the COP 21 in Paris in 2015. Well, the name of this funny name comes from the fact that it answered the question, what are the quantity, the percentage, the ratio of carbon we need to add in all the soil of the Earth every year to compensate the net flux of carbon in the atmosphere due to the human activity? And the answer is 0.4%. Well, those data came from 2014. And so 0.4% is 4 per mil, where the name is coming from the initiative. So as it was said, the initiative was born in Paris with 160 signatories. That means country, international organization, NGOs, farmers organization, scientific institution, and business. And the goal of the initiative, as you understand already, is to increase carbon sequestration in soil for increasing food security, adapting agriculture to climate change, and contributing to mitigating to climate change. All of that within the objective of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, of course. So today we have 721 from 160 signatory. We have 721 signatory. That's quite a lot. Almost half of them are members. It means that they contribute to the decision-making process. And our chair is Mr. Stéphane Le Foll, previous Minister of Agriculture in France, assisted in the vice chair by Mrs. Gabrielle Bastien, a Canadian native, and Ibrahim Mayaki from Niger. You have an overview of all the members and partners. I mean, of course, the logo are not the exhausting list of the 721, but here you can have a look. You can find this map on our website, and you can see that we are really an international now initiative. So very quickly, we are organized in 4 bodies: the forum of the partner, the consultative body, the consortium of the member, the decision-making body, the scientific and technical committee, and the executive secretariat that I have the honor and the pleasure to manage. So I will let you this presentation, of course, and this is all the member of our scientific and technical committee, and they are coming from various countries. We are taking care of the fact that half of them are men and the other one are women, and they are coming from the 5 continents in order to balance all the competencies. So we develop a lot of activities in the term of scientific aspects. So I will not come back on that because it's a little bit long, as I said before. And we develop a lot of activities also in the field fold, I would say, increasing the general awareness. We are present on the social networks. We have a collaborative platform. We have website, and we organize a lot of meetings in order to make this all become a reality. 2 years ago, we adopted our strategic plan. We give our vision of the world in 2050, a worldwide healthy and carbon-rich soil to combat climate change and end hunger. And we insist on the guiding principle. As I said before, soil health is at the center of action. Farmers and foresters are key actors at the center and manager of the farming forestry systems. A lot of also principles are there, like the multi-stakeholder approach and public-private cooperation. This strategic plan is organized in 6 goals that you have there on the right, mentioned with a letter, each goal being divided in 3 to 6 objectives, each objective having a description, a baseline, and a target 2030 and a target 2050. So you have the 6 goals there represented in what we call in our language the Olympic rings, and they are within, you have the objective and you have the 24. We created 24 task force during 1 year in order to develop the implementation plan with a Delphi participatory study. And this implementation plan being developed during this year is proposed now at the moment for the approval of the member of the 4 per million initiative. And it gathers 142 activities that could be developed under the 24 objectives in order to fulfill those objectives. Any of your institution can find objectives that fulfill the global strategic plan of the 4 per million. And we hope that you will be able to participate. We will be very glad to have in our members, like we have the Soil Health Institute, to have all the other components. And we are really looking forward to have the US government also as a member of the 4 per million. All that I explained in this presentation, we put it in a book, which is called Farmers Have the Earth in Their Hands. The book is already published in French, but it will be published in English and in Spanish in the coming weeks. So I encourage you to look at that book and read it and spread this information all around you. All the money we can get from the book will go to the 4 per million initiative. I gave all my rights to the initiative in order to fulfill our goals. So I thank you for your attention. And of course, I'm ready to answer all the questions that you may have and participate to the panel discussion afterwards.
All right, thank you. All right, we do have a few questions for you, Dr. Liu. Are there major funding sources for the 4 per mil initiative?
Well, our resources are scarce, to be honest. We are financed by France, Germany, and Spain at the moment. But we would like to receive more money in order to implement the strategy. To be honest, we are not the one who will do the job. The members and the partners will do the job. We are a small team of 6 persons. We don't want to be more than 8. We don't need a budget of millions of dollars or euro. We need maybe 500,000 US dollar or euro. That will be more than enough for us to fulfill our goals. But we really need all the partners to be active and to select activities and objectives they want to contribute to and develop in partnership or by their own.
Right, that's great. Can you speak to how this work is translating into policies on the ground and the places where you do have partners?
Well, have you have seen on the map, we have partners everywhere. Could be countries, but it could be regional organization. It could be also international organization like FAO, World Bank, or Jeff. But it also are private companies, and could be also research institute. So all what we want to do is, our main objective is to increase the awareness about the importance of soil health, about the importance of agroecology, and the need to use soil health as the basis of all action. So we are acting a lot at the moment in order to push all the negotiator of country in the UNCCD, UNFCCC, and the Biodiversity Convention to understand that they need to start by acting for soil health. And all what we have heard about agriculture will be the main vector, farmers will be the actor, and the tool will be the agroecology or whatever you call it. So this, whenever it comes a reality in the mind of the policymaker, it can become, of course, a policy, and it can be developed at the national or regional level. as it starts to be in the US and it starts to be in Europe also with the new Green Deal.
Okay, thanks. Also, there's multiple avenues of people asking me more about how to get the book that you showed in your last slide.
In the last slide, if I'm doing right, there is the address, the mail address, where you can order the book directly to the editor, because I'm not dealing with that. It's them to the job. Okay, if not, I will provide it to you, and you can spread to the people. No problem.
That would be great. So someone just put it in the Q&A, and I'm also just placing it into the chat.
Yes, anybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good one. I think this is what I was going to talk about in the panel discussion, but I'll go ahead and let you get it kicked off. What is the most difficult aspect of implementing these conservation changes?
Well, you know, the farmers is a really conservative world, and they stick to their practices. They learn from their study or from their parents. So it's difficult for them to change. And doing so, they will take some risk. So we need to understand that this transition period is a risk period for them. And we need to accompany them financially and also technically in order to give answer to their question, and also provide them the support in order for them to be able to go over that transition. But the other aspect is the role of the consumer, and which is very important, because if the consumer do not understand the importance of choosing such a food instead of the other one, then, and also if there is no specific label showing where the food is coming from and what kind of agriculture, then they cannot be aware of, they cannot get the right information to get the right food. So the most difficult thing is first making the farmers understand that they need to change. And the second one is making the consumer aware that they need also to change the product they will purchase.
That's fantastic. I think that was really a nice theme of the day, right? Is that there is this transition period for this community that we're asking them to take risk, but we don't really have those risks well quantified. And then when we talk about scaling soil health practices, it gets kind of difficult because, you know, ultimately, you know, we have the crop, the climate, and the soil interaction, which is very local technical knowledge. And I think, you know, Jamie brought that up in her talk as well. That was one of those last bullets, is like the time is now. And it's really about how do we, how do we tool our conservation planners and those that are helping the farmers with whatever information that they need. I think with that, with panel, would y'all all just turn on, except for Jason. Looks like Jason is not on anymore, but please go ahead and turn on your video, and we have 10 minutes yet for some discussion. And those of you, let's see, those of you too that, you know, in the audience, I'm still looking at the Q&A session. So if you want to put anything in for, you know, the whole group discuss as a panel, that's still open. So I just, first of all, kind of wanted to put together, like, you know, what I heard in this session. You know, we started with Jason just talking about, you know, taking that soil measurement and how we scale it to the landscape. So that's really like developing some of that technical quantification. And then we just talked about, you know, we have soils with manure application. We have, you know, folks trying to get a bunch of farmers together and quantify soil carbon. And then also, of course, the NRCS in the United States is trying to incentivize and figure out how do we reduce these barriers through incentives and policy. And one of the things that I think that was underlined in all of this, and that Dr. Liu just really pointed out, is that social connection. And places where we see that we have a lot of growth yet to do is to figure out how to take all this technical knowledge and translate it to those that, you know, can actually use it. But I was curious, so you have to give it a quick think here. What kinds of things do you think that we could improve on when it comes to connecting our information to farmers, or having farmers connect the information to each other. And Jamie, I'm going to pick on you first, because I know that you work with a co-op, which is farmer to farmer connection and coordination. What is your big learning there, or where do you think is like a solution to a barrier?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we're working hard to figure out how to kind of build into our system is that farmer to farmer peer network. So we, in fact, just yesterday had a big True Terra field day, and on one of our grower advisor panels, similar to the question that was just answered by Dr. Liu, the growers were responding to sort of what were the biggest barriers to their soil health journey, and what was their advice to the rest of the growers in the room. So the advice repeatedly that we get from these long-term soil health farmers is to start small, and so that you can fail, right? And so part of it is making sure that we can create an environment that the grower is supported by a network, a peer network, an advisory network that can help them do that, but then also provide that support network so that we can kind of shorten that learning curve. And so we're looking at all kinds of different ways to do that. That they are financial assistance and technical assistance, but I think trying to figure out ways that makes sense and there's value creation in the private sector is going to be really one of the keys to scale.
Okay, Carl, you also work with co-ops and hear a lot of the chatter that goes on within co-ops and between co-ops. Do you have you observed any successful models of knowledge transfer and model sharing, or any lessons learned anyway to share with the group?
I think a few times this morning and this afternoon, we've heard the idea of the farmer to farmer sharing. And I know that some of my colleagues here in New York have deployed farmer discussion groups to great effect. And we could certainly form farmer discussion groups around a soil health topic, just like we might around heifers or calves or forage. So I think there's that opportunity. That peer-to-peer learning, as we know, is very effective. A couple other thoughts I had is, it seems to me like there's an opportunity to develop regional demonstration farms, so that that farms that are learning continuously and then willing and able to share that almost on a continuous basis, so that others nearby can come and see. And many times farmers want to know, okay, well, maybe it works in Pennsylvania, but Wisconsin's different, right? Or France is different than Scotland or whatever. So they want to see the local application. And I guess thirdly, and this is one that's a little less developed for me at the moment, but I had the opportunity to go to the King Ranch Institute for Ranch Management Systems Thinking course just last week in South Texas. And there's a lot of ideas that are incubating in my head about, a lot of our challenges here are associated with the linear thinking we've been applying. Oh, I've got weeds, I'm going to spray or I'm going to cultivate. Oh, I've got compaction, I'm going to go rip that up with a deep ripper. So I think if like I said, it's not very well developed, but I would really love for us to step back and apply some systems thinking to a regenerative farming system, and help farmers figure out how to apply all of those pieces at once, slowly, as Jamie noted, so we can fail, but so that we start building skills in that way, rather than just solving our problems, one at a time.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's right. So I think we'll start out again with you, Paul. Casting your eyes across the world, where do you see leading practices for soil health ramping up the fastest? And why do you think those areas are changing their practices so quickly?
Well, it's not easy to answer this question, because practices are changing everywhere. That's something I learned from 6 years now that I'm working in the 4 per Mill initiative. And I'm very happy to see that. It happens sometime very quickly, and some other time it's a little bit slow. If you look at what's happened in India, for instance, they are changing practices in all states at once. But it could be dangerous if it's not adapted at the right position. Look at what happened in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, they decided to go for organic agriculture at once, and it was a big failure. And it's a shame because it just gives a bad picture of what could be organic agriculture. You can have organic, you can have regenerative agriculture, you can have agroforestry, you can have conservation agriculture cohabitating in the same country because they are all different objectives. And you cannot say we can produce organic only everywhere on earth and it will fulfill all the needs for the human beings. It's not true. And so we need to be really adapted. In some other countries, things are moving also very fast. I look in some part of the US concerning the rangeland, and the people are adopting some holistic grazing system management that are making things moving in terms of carbon sequestration. Well, I'm not looking at the whole things concerning the yield and so on. It needs to be also looked at in detail in all those aspects. But in South America also, they adapted conservation agriculture very fast, and in Australia as well. It starts changing in Europe because people are struggling with drought at the moment, and they start to think about what could be the practice that could bring water back in our soils. And this is really what we are talking about, conservation agriculture and some other practice like that. But these things will make the drought in Europe and in some part of the world will make the movement going faster in the change of the practices.
Yeah. And, you know, in my observations have been the places where the soils are most at risk tend to be the places where the adoption seems to happen faster. You know, for example, even in a place that Jason and I worked in Iowa, the flatlands, there wasn't as much adoption of no-till and some conservation practices. However, on the more erodible lands, it had been adopted very, very predominantly. And I was just in Scotland and saw some of the same things that on, you know, the really slopely drumlins, you know, the farmers seemed to be much more aggressive in trying to figure out, you know, a better way to farm that required less inputs and protected the soil, secured the soil more. So I think that's kind of one of the observations that I have. And some of us are just blessed with really flat, great soils, and you can just abuse them and you don't know what's going on, right? And so I think that's been one of the observations I've had. Jamie, you're not on mute, so I wanted to know if you want to contribute to that.
No, I think I would agree with, I didn't realize I wasn't on mute even, but I think the one thing that I noticed that I certainly don't have that global perspective that either you or Dr. Liu have, but it's like for us at Tritera, even though we're part of a large corporation, I was making fun of Christine earlier because she said that I was corporate, which I kind of brittle against because I think of myself much more in small business entrepreneurial capacity, but certainly Tritera is part of a large corporation. So, but I think that, you know, one of the things that we really think about is like, where can we look for those common objectives and then be really direct about the things that that we can put cross-functional groups together and solve for, right? So how can we shorten that innovation curve? It is kind of what I was thinking about as Dr. Liu was talking about. I think there's a lot of places where we have common objectives here, and so I just see so many opportunities for the research community to come together with the practitioner community, to come together with, you know, private sector, and really, like, we're really all after the same thing here. So how can we really sort of shorten that innovation curve by working better together?